everyone.
Hey.
Hello.
That's my secret way to get us to test mics, is to see if I can hear you say hello. Awesome. We'll give folks a few minutes to join. Awesome. How's everyone's day going before we dive in?
Yeah, not bad. Yeah,
yeah, very hot here where we are. So
yeah,
nice weather
for once.
Let's I'd say let's go around the horn and kind of introduce ourselves, where we work, and then also, since we're all remote, where we're currently sort of working out of.
Cool. So I guess I'll start. My name is Trevor Heath. I lead the projects here at Novum from a product strategy and development standpoint. I currently work out of South Orange County, California, so just between, almost directly in the middle of Los Angeles and San Diego. And I love being able to work with Gatsby, and especially working with Gatsby in sunny California. Like, it's awesome. So super glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, I'm John, co-founder at Attach with Tom, who's obviously also on the call. I'm primarily more of a developer and sort of doing the back end side of things really, which has been really interesting with Gatsby and obviously Shopify as well, which we're talking about today. So yeah, super excited to be on the call as well. I'm currently based in obviously the UK, in England, not far from Liverpool, which is towards the north. So not quite as a tech hub as California, but it's getting there. It's catching up with it.
Yeah, I'm Tom Hughes, co-founder of Attach along with John, mainly working on front end of projects, and been working with Gatsby for about 2 years now, early 2019, I think it was. I'm based, near John, not too far from Liverpool. So
awesome.
So I'm Tyler Barnes. I'm a staff software engineer at Gatsby. I've been working here for just about 2 years, I think, on the integrations team. So that's working on the WordPress plugin, the Shopify plugin, different source plugins, as well as some stuff on Gatsby Cloud. And I'm in Canada, in Victoria, British Columbia.
That's awesome. Hey, I'm Jack Selwood. I'm a senior product manager here at Gatsby. I've been at Gatsby for about a year. I work with Tyler on the integrations squad, and it's been super exciting to see and kind of help the Jamstack community and ecosystem grow, and super excited to dig in today. So thanks everyone for joining. Today we're going to talk about some pro tips to help you stay on budget for your next Shopify project. So we have some pros here from agencies, Trevor, John, and Tom, who we'll talk to more later. But before we kind of dive in, I just want to hear folks' first sort of example of the first site they built with Gatsby. Like, how did you first discover Gatsby, and when were you like, okay, we're gonna use Gatsby for a project now? What was that process experience like? And I guess Trevor, I'll throw it over to you first.
Cool. Yeah, I was really lucky when it came to starting with Gatsby. I was working with a team who's really popular in the JavaScript kind of ecosystem, which is Prisma. And Prisma.io, they needed some extra work done on their site. They had a Gatsby site already. They had some of our team come in and kind of help them. And it was a perfect introduction. I was very lucky because I got to see how a bunch of other really talented engineers kind of set up that. And it was primarily Markdown base. It was the beginning of MDX, so there was some MDX in there. No headless CMS or anything. It was pretty developer focused, but it was a wonderful starting point. And I just knew right away that the flexibility you get, I built a lot of platforms at the time. So like working in React and just like, getting to enjoy in an ecosystem that was growing was awesome. So I loved it right off the bat, then started to bring it into our company for our website, and then slowly started to bring it into our client work, which now we basically look at Gatsby as one of our first solutions for anything that is static, needs performance, a lot of data, but also starting to dabble with it as a dynamic platform builder as well. So since then, I've been really lucky. So great experience.
That's awesome. So if there was like one thing that you like that keeps bringing you back to Gatsby, you maybe alluded to it a little bit, but like, what's that one thing that keeps bringing you back?
Yeah, I think developer experience is like one of the key things. I think Gatsby just really crushes it when it comes to having a great community with a lot of plugins and a lot of like great documentation, and just like, I don't know, I think the people that work on Gatsby and work with Gatsby are always open to helping and coming up with new ideas. So I've never gotten to a point where I'm like, I can't solve this because I can't find the information or I can't find a solution. Like, it seems like the community is just built out enough that it's really empowering when you're trying to come up with new solutions. And I love that part. And obviously, just from a developer experience standpoint, like a lot of the features that have been built all the way up to now Gatsby Cloud, like it's almost this all-in-one thing that really just, you can go to Gatsby, you can build the infrastructure of the site, and now you can even host it performantly. It's just a great experience all around. So I think that's what keeps bringing me back.
That's awesome. Tom, I noticed you shaking your head when Trevor was talking about DX. Is there anything you want to add there?
No, I agree with a lot of what Trevor says in terms of developer experience as well. So our backgrounds, a lot of WordPress and Magento and bits of other platforms. So you do need to potentially know different languages and different, things about the platforms and whatnot. Whereas obviously with Gatsby, we can use that same framework, but build out lead gen sites, e-com sites, all different types of sites. So it really sort of plays to that. We can become experts in that rather than having to spread ourselves too thinly as well, which is really good.
That's awesome. What's your favorite, like maybe obscure feature of Gatsby? Like as you started getting into it, like you're like, oh, I didn't realize on the surface I could do this.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I mean, when we first started using it, there was a lot of things that were surprising. It was like, okay, this is the way it's working. This is why why it's really good. I mean, the way Gatsby Cloud integrates with a number of first-party sort of CMSs makes it really easy. We use Data CMS a lot, and the fact that it's just plug and play, really, we don't need to worry too much about the setup. It is really good, especially with like the new previews as well, which have come along with that. So yeah, that's been really useful.
That's awesome. John, is there anything you want? So you and Tom both, build sites at Attach Digital. Is there anything? Actually, I guess more specific question: who brought Gatsby in first to Attach Digital?
Yeah, Tom did that.
Okay,
which was a great move. Yeah, sort of like late 2019, we started looking at what we can do with Attach, taking it forward, looking at the landscape and looking at the platforms we were using ourselves. And yeah, as soon as we did that, we did a bit of a crash course in it. Went straight into our first project immediately because we were toying up whether to do another WordPress build or try something new. So yeah, we took it on using Gatsby, and it was a very nice fresh approach that I enjoyed a lot. Obviously with the other platforms as well, we have to do quite a lot of work on the back end to sort of get things ready and get them prepped, and sort of it always clashes into the front end back end are always clashing at certain points. So I think that's been a joy to pick up platforms off the shelf and integrate straight away with Gatsby Cloud as well. Great choice for us.
That's awesome.
I think it was sorry, just to add to that, I think it was our first Gatsby site was our own site, I think, wasn't it, John? Which is obviously, your own site is always a great playground. And at the time we were looking to do headless. So we did look at a few options, and Gatsby came out on top, and not really looked back since. I was also at the Gatsby Days in London, which was a few months after we started first looking at Gatsby. So that really solidified stuff in my head as well. Just being able to see the great talks from you guys at Gatsby, and that was a really good day. So yeah, I really enjoyed that.
That's awesome. So I guess one last question, and Trevor, if you want to respond to this, feel free. But John, you mentioned WordPress. What was it like coming from WordPress to Gatsby? Because that's a huge shift. Like you're using new CMSs, new front end frameworks. How much of a learning curve was there?
Well, yeah, I can. Obviously, for me, it was quite a big jump. I think what it's done for me, especially, is increase the enjoyment of the front end work that I'm doing now. I think it's a much simpler way of doing things, and it allows you to sort of break away between the two a lot easier. So even though it was quite a big jump, obviously from a completely different programming language and to a different framework, it was, yeah, like I said, a breath of fresh air for me on front end as well. So yeah, it was a nice learning curve, but yeah, relatively easy to do.
That's awesome. God. Well, we're here to talk about Shopify and building headless e-commerce sites. So why don't we dig into that? So Trevor, John, and Tom, we'll catch you guys in a little bit. We'll walk through a little bit of a demo now and answer more questions then. Awesome. Howdy, Tyler. So we're going to build a Shopify site today, right?
Yeah, excited.
Awesome. Cool. Awesome. So I'll kind of give us a walkthrough of Gatsby has launched a lot of things this year around Shopify. And so I just want to share my screen and kind of walk through some of the stuff that we've launched and just confirm that you all can see my screen okay. And if no one has seen this browser before, I'm in Safari. I know very few people actually use Safari, but it still works for Shopify sites. Awesome. So earlier this year, we launched a brand new starter for Shopify to give you sort of a speed boost when you're deciding to build a new storefront for your Shopify site. And this store actually has, I think, about 10,000 products. So it's really, like, compared to the previous version of the starter and the source plugin for Shopify, it really opens up a new level of scale and performance. And so across the top here, you can see that I'm pulling in all of my Shopify collections. Images load super fast. And there's even search. So if I want to search for a product, like maybe I want to find, I think there's some shoes on this site. I can search for shoes with Algolia. And this starter is all available for you to quickly swap in some environment variables and get started. And so we built this so that developers could, almost like WordPress, almost like Shopify Liquid templates, just get started really, really fast. And this is available on GitHub. So Gatsby Starter Shopify is the package you can super quickly and easily deploy to Gatsby Cloud. The thing underpinning all of this, though, is Gatsby's vast ecosystem of source plugins. And source plugins are how you bring data into your Gatsby site. And we have source plugins for Shopify, WordPress, Contentful, many headless CMSs. And you can combine data from multiple places with Gatsby. And what we actually learned as we were building this new starter and this new source plugin for Shopify is most people, and you heard Tom mention this earlier, most sites source data from Shopify and another CMS. CMSs like Datto CMS, WordPress, or Contentful are really great for building out marketing pages or marketing copy or sort of content-heavy sites that complement your Shopify storefront. And you can unify all of this with a Gatsby front end. And so we launched earlier this year Gatsby Source Shopify on top of the starter. And this unlocks incremental builds on Gatsby Cloud. So you can update your Shopify catalog and see all that new product data published to your store in seconds instead of minutes. It's a whole lot faster. And as a result of that, it means if you have a 10,000 product store or a 10,000 SKU store, making an edit, you don't have to redeploy all of those products to your Gatsby site, only what's changed. So there's some documentation here. If you haven't started using the new source plugin, there's some docs here to do that. But would highly recommend just sort of giving it a try using the new starter and source plugin. And what's really cool is we built this new app for the Shopify App Store, so you can actually try what it would be like to have a Gatsby-powered front end in just a couple clicks. So I'll walk through that now. So over here, I have a Gatsby swag store. This isn't the actual live swag store. This is kind of a test site that I have running. And there's already some products in here. There's already some orders. And so let's just say, for example, I've been a happy Shopify customer for maybe a few years, and I'm ready to start to explore what a new front end might look like because I want to, maybe a faster site. Maybe I want to put my CMS content somewhere else, so I need a front end or a storefront to unify all this content together. And so let's say I sort of see something about Gatsby and I want to give it a try. Well, now without even using the command line, it's super fast and easy as a merchant to give this a try. So the starter that I showed earlier, we're going to spin up with this swag store. But using this product data instead of that other store. So I've kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but Gatsby Cloud is now on the Shopify App Store. And so I'll click into this. And here you can see some information about the source plugin. It's super easy, or about the integration to connect this to Gatsby Cloud, to build rich web experiences. And with Gatsby Cloud, it's completely free to get started and give this a try. So I'm going to click Add App, and it'll start installing this on my swag store. And it's kind of loading here. And one of the really cool things is we've been able to partner with Shopify to actually unlock Gatsby Cloud as a sales channel, not just an app, but actually a sales channel. So if you want to do omni-channel e-commerce, you can say, hey, I want some products on Facebook, I want some products on my Shopify storefront, and maybe Gatsby is a separate thing. Or if you have a mobile app and you want to differentiate what's available on your mobile app or in the store from your Gatsby site, you can do that now since our Gatsby Cloud app is a sales channel with Shopify. So click Add Sales Channel. And now I'm getting logged in here. And I actually already have the site connected to a store. So I'm going to disconnect this site so I can walk you guys through what it looks like to actually add a new storefront for this site. So I have my Shopify store. Now let's add a Gatsby front end for it. So I'll click Add Site. It'll toss me out to Gatsby Cloud to authenticate. And what I want to do is I could import an existing project from GitHub, but I actually, I haven't really started this project yet, so I want to use the new Shopify Starter. So I'm going to choose that starter, and I'm going to create this in my workspace, and I'll just name this Gatsby, Gatsby Starter Shopify for the new repo, because this is automatically going to provision a repository for me on GitHub. I'll click Next. It's now, I already have a duplicate name. I'm a huge Shopify fan, so I have like 10 repos of this starter. I don't think I have a 10th yet, and so I don't think this name will conflict. Awesome. So it's creating the new repo on GitHub. It looks like it's already succeeded, and it's creating a new site on Gatsby Cloud. Tyler, I don't know if like in the past when you created these sites, but like copying and pasting API keys is just like so annoying. I'm very happy I don't have to do that anymore.
Huge improvement.
Yeah, that's awesome. So this site is still building. It'll take maybe a minute or two to build on Gatsby Cloud. But what's great, think about the client that you'll probably hand this site off to. They might not be super familiar with Gatsby, and so this gives them one click to their production build, so they can actually see their production site that's hosted on Gatsby Cloud. And I'll open that up as soon as the build is ready. But Tyler, I think we're going to actually try and build a site today. That's not just sort of a boilerplate with sample content. We're going to try and make it look like something real.
Yeah, like a real site. So I have already pulled down, the Shopify starter, and I have it running here locally. Maybe let's just quickly look through some of the files in the starter. So if you open the Gitsby config, you can see there's a bunch of plugins. They all do some different things, but the main one obviously is the Shopify source plugin.
Hey Tyler, could you Command Zoom and make the text in VS Code a little bigger?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome.
Is that better?
Great.
Let me make this smaller. Okay, sweet. So yeah, so this is exactly what you'll get when you like pull the starter down and start using it. There's a few things that we need to add to our environment variables in order to have it actually run. So if you go through the process that Jack just showed, your Gatsby Cloud site, you'll be able to grab some environment variables from the settings page there. We don't really need to go into that here. It's very straightforward. Just go to your your dashboard URL for Gatsby Cloud, go to the settings, and you'll see environment variables. You can copy them. We have this environment.example, and these are the exact variables we'll get from Gatsby Cloud. I've already done that, and I put it in this .env file. I'm not going to click on it because then you'll see my secrets and everything. But you can basically copy this .end.example to .env and just change these out with your values from Gatsby Cloud.
But if Tyler, for example, I'm a merchant and I don't know how to get into VS Code, I can still use the public app in the Shopify App Store to at least build the storefront, just not make any edits. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is just for developers, basically. Like I've pulled it down onto my machine and I want to run it locally, basically. So that's the only reason I need to copy these. Mm-hmm. The actual production site, it's already set up, which is great. So I opened a new terminal and then I just ran Gatsby develop. Here, maybe let me restart that actually. So yeah, in the root of the project, you just run Gatsby develop. If you're new to Gatsby, it'll take, maybe 10, 20 seconds to start up. And what we're going to be doing today is basically like here, let me make this bigger. So this is the actual starter. Like once you run Gatsby Develop, this is what you'll see. The homepage kind of looks like this. The products page looks like this, and we have all these, different categories like Jack was talking about earlier. We want to make this site look like this one. So we're going to kind of, walk through what we would actually do.
The backstory on this site is, and Tom, if you want to pop in for a second, feel free. But this is a site that Attach Digital built using the new Gatsby Source Shopify plugin. And so we're going to not fully reverse engineer it, but sort of use it for inspiration in creating a new site today. Cool. Tom, I guess since Tom's here, hey, Tom, was there anything super like special or specific as you were building up this site that, special considerations that you thought through with the client?
Nothing really super special. I mean, obviously being a sort of brand and wanting to push the content as well, the CMS was a big decision. So we used Dato for that, and that had a good plugin with Shopify. So that was really easy. So they could pick products from Dato for the site, which was good as well. And then probably things like the out of stock notification, because a lot of the products, because of how the business works in terms of when they get the stock in and they have plant drops, a lot of the items are out of stock. So they wanted this notification so someone could pop in their email and they get notified when the products are back in stock. But that uses Gatsby functions to do that behind the scenes. But yeah.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Fully on Gatsby Cloud. That's great. Cool. So Tyler, I'll hand it back to you to kind of walk through how we're going to make some edits to this.
Sweet. Okay. So these, like the starter is actually, it has a lot of the features of this site already. So, we have this product grid. We also have that in our starter. We have like all, a page for every, category, I guess you'd call it. We also have that in our starter. So I think we're just gonna move some things around, maybe add like this Google font, which is this one, and then tweak some CSS and see how close we can get. So let's see. So I guess maybe the first thing, let's just move this navigation down. Or what was that, Jack? Did you say something?
Just great. Let's do it.
Okay. So I'm gonna try to find this. I think this is. So this would be like we're using file system routes here. It looks like. Yep.
And
which is that's a feature of.
I was gonna say, just to double check, can you explain a little bit about file system routes?
Yeah, for sure. So that's like a new feature of Gatsby. Came out, in the last few months. It makes it so you don't have to use Gatsby node to build pages. So here we have like Shopify product.handle. For each Shopify product node, we're going to create a page where the path of the page is, we have this pages directory, so products here. And then if we go into one of these, like baby or beauty or books, that is actually the handle here, I believe. Shopify product. Oh no, sorry, that would be this index. So Shopify, let me make this bigger. So Shopify product.product type. It kind of like joins the directory names together to build out pages. So we have products, which is this directory. Oops, you can see that. And then inside of that, we kind of have this special syntax where we can take the product type and then add that to the URL automatically. And all these pages just get built out just from this file existing. So that's kind of like that's file system route API in a nutshell. There's a lot more it can do. I would definitely recommend checking out the Gatsby JS docs on it if you haven't used it before and you want to use it. It's really powerful, pretty straightforward, and there's some good tutorials on that as well. So
I think next week's live stream will also be covering file system routes in a little bit more detail. So
oh sweet, yeah. So check
that out. Learn
more. Cool. Okay, so maybe let's start in one of these then. So like I believe that this index.js inside this directory is this template that we're seeing here. So we have like a layout that's wrapping it. I guess that would include like the header and the menu and everything. This H1, I assume is just this. Let me refresh it. Yeah, so that's that. So I'm guessing, yeah, we're gonna want to pull the menu out of the layout and put it right below this H1. So go in there, there's a header. And this is probably it. I'm just gonna comment it out just to make sure. Yep, disappears, so it's definitely it. So we can just move that right over back to our template. And I'll auto import that. Looks like we need some styles as well. What was it? Nav. So I think we need this like module CSS here. So I will copy this whole thing. And nav, we're not going to need in the header anymore because we're moving the nav. So just delete that. So back in the React component for this page, I guess we need to import this. Let's see. So probably it's like the same, amount of directories away. So we can just do that. What do we got here? So that's not right. Oh, it's navigation. Let me just figure this out. So we got 1, 2.
I love traversing directories. It's actually my favorite pastime.
I know, right? So fun.
I remember old school WordPress. You're like WP and Q script or something like that, and you're like trying to like move up and down.
Yeah, totally.
That was way worse than this.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I think it actually was the right amount. Maybe I just had to refresh the browser or something. Anyway, so now we have this down below, which is closer to what we want. So we could probably actually just start styling from here, right? So we're going to probably end up making another menu at the top to kind of replicate this, but we can leave that for now. Maybe let's change the title to, oh, am I getting an error here? Get query result. I think that's okay right now. Or is it? Let's refresh and make sure. Yeah, that's
loaded. Totally. Cool. Well, while you're adding some styling, I just wanted to kind of explain why I think, coming from agency land for a really long time, why I think this is such a big deal. So, when you're thinking about building a site for a client and maybe they have an existing Shopify store, maybe they're using a Square register and they have a Square online store, being able to really quickly prove to the client that like, yes, we can build this. And actually, here's sort of like a mini version of what the site would look like, helps build confidence and helps vision cast. Oh, this is what my site might look like. This might be what's possible. And so as you're seeing with Tyler, like we can just move some React components around and like add and remove some styling, and we can build a pretty sophisticated, nice looking site in very little time. And I think what's cool about that is as a developer, as a front end developer, you can focus more on, building and going really deep on the design and not having to worry so much about, exactly how you're going to pull in product data or exactly how you're going to integrate with Shopify. With the starter and with the source plugin, a lot of that is just taken care of, letting you focus on the important parts like design and SEO. So I wish that I would have had something like this when I was building sites for clients.
Yeah, totally. So I think like we have to maybe adjust like the spacing and stuff, but let's grab this font actually next, because that's a big part of what makes this site look how it looks. So this is this Codex, I think that's how you say it, Google font. So it's just like a freely available font that we can use. There is like a Gatsby plugin in Google Fonts that makes using Google Fonts really easy. So let's add that, and then we can pull this typeface in. So you can add it with Yarn. And I think all we have to do after that is just add it to the plugins array in Gitsby Config.
Awesome. By the way, Tom, thank you for choosing a Google font. I'm sure you were thinking of this demo when you were building your site.
Yeah, it makes things easier, right? Cool. So
Absolutely.
I think that's all we have to do, right? Like that's the name of it, Codex. So this should actually pull it in, but let's start it up again and find out.
Oh, by the way, if anyone watching has questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer them. You know, Tyler and I, and also with the larger group when we bring them back.
So I think we have like a CSS variables file. Yeah, we do. So we'll be able to, make some kind of broad changes pretty easily in this starter. I think it looks like we're using the same typeface in a lot of places, just like different weights of it. So we could probably just change this font body to Codex, maybe like a I don't know, serif fallback.
I remember the default old school serif font.
Times New Roman.
No, it was a different one. I'll go Google it or something. But I love Codex.
Yeah, it's nice. Okay, so that actually changed it. We'll probably have to change some font sizes and stuff, but we're getting closer, which is nice. I think these blacks are slightly different, but maybe not different enough for us to care for the demo. Let's see, what else do we need to do? Let's maybe make the font size and spacing for this header the same. So this is 55 pixels. In our CSS variables, I bet you we have, font. They've got all kinds of different variables in here. So a lot of things you can change without needing to actually go into the CSS and change it, which is pretty cool. I don't know.
Thank you to whoever built this.
I know, right? Makes things way easier. I don't know which one this is using though. I guess we can inspect it and have a look. So this is using text display, where is that? Text display, so 2XL. No, I guess that's not it. Let's try changing the next one. Okay, sweet, that was it.
There we go.
It's been a while since I've done front end, so I don't know if this is how people would normally debug this stuff, but it seems to be working. So I guess the next thing, maybe let's fix this spacing because this is not right. So the title, we have some padding on it. I guess we want to change that. So space 2XL. I don't know if I want to change that for everything. Maybe we can just try 3XL. Yeah, that. Oh, you know what? Actually, the top maybe looked okay. Maybe we just need to change the bottom. No, there's no 4XL. So I'm actually just going to make this a bit bigger manually without the variable because I want it to be closer than this. So I'm going to just actually copy these for now. Sweet. I guess the next thing would be like this menu that we moved. It looks kind of bad right now, so let's fix that.
It looks like it's center aligned and then justify content around or something like that.
Yeah, and I think this probably should. I think this one scrolls too. So
wow! I didn't realize that's a lot of plants.
We probably want to do the same thing. Okay, ours does scroll, so maybe if we just put some kind of div around it and then some a max width or something.
I always think it's funny how when you start writing a lot of CSS, I don't know, I see the world as CSS, and so I'll be like, they should they should like justify around those tables in that restaurant. There like needs to be more space in between them.
Yeah, totally. Or like you start seeing when things are not aligned, like someone makes a poster and it's like, oh my God, none of this.
Yeah. If only we could do like urban planning with like CSS box or flex grid styling.
Yeah, I don't know how well that would turn out. Who knows?
Yeah.
Awesome. I remember CSS being, a bit of a minefield when I was a front-end developer. It was like, there's so many things you have to know to make it work well. Hopefully that's changed. I know there's like grid and stuff like that now. So
yeah. Well, and React and Tailwind and more like expressive, explicit front-end frameworks are helping with that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler, while you're going through and I guess fixing some of the spacing on the nav, maybe I can, Tom, if you're around and want to chat through some of the design considerations for the site, that could be interesting.
Hey,
Tom. I don't think we discussed that we were going to be using this site today.
No, it came to us as a surprise to us both.
Yeah. I'm sure you're happy that we weren't able to reverse engineer it in an hour. Do you want to talk a little bit about, so Datto CMS is involved in this site. What parts of the site are sourcing from Datto CMS? What parts are coming from Shopify? And thinking about your client, how do they edit this content?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, products and categories, collections are coming from Shopify. And there is a link between Datto and Shopify, so they can pick featured products and also add products into Datto, so then they can add more content as well. But by default, it just pulls the products from Shopify. And probably some of the content that we've got in Datto CMS, we might end up switching over to Shopify with these new meta fields coming out. So that opens up that possibility a bit more. And then,
let's go back to that a second, because there was a lot at Shopify Unite. I know people were probably just thinking about the new Gatsby Cloud app in the Shopify App Store, but there was actually a lot of other really exciting stuff. Do you want to maybe recap what you're really excited for?
Obviously loads more support in terms of APIs, and obviously Shopify going more sort of headless route, which is really good. And hopefully that flows through to Shopify apps as well, because that is a slight issue at the moment, because obviously people think about Shopify, they think Shopify apps, and you can't really use a lot of them in terms of headless, but there's more and more going that way, which is good. And then, meta fields, which was a big one. So we can add sort of, I guess, your typical content management fields to products. And I think products and variants, and I think customers and orders are coming soon. So that's really exciting. We've not really used it that much at the moment, apart from trying to sort of play around with it. But I think that will change maybe how we set up some of the sites and have some more of the product information in Shopify itself and just pull it into Gatsby rather than have it in a CMS instead.
Awesome. And of course, Gatsby Store Shopify will try and keep up with all of this support first class later this year. So back on. Before we bring everybody back, I just want to check in, Tyler. How's it going?
We got a bit closer, not all the way, but I mean, you can see it's getting closer to this site. I'm sure, spending another hour on it, we could get it like very close. So
yeah. Totally. Well, feel free to keep working on it if you want. I'm gonna John, Trevor, if you want to come back in, that'd be awesome, and we can talk more about Shopify and kind of your experience using it. Hey Tom, hey John, hi Trevor. Well, awesome. So Tom, I unexpectedly brought you in a bunch. Thank you for being willing to talk about the site that you built. Maybe we'll start with you, Trevor. At Novum, can you tell me a little bit about, so you've built some Gatsby plus Shopify sites. Number one, if you want to name drop those URLs, that'd be awesome. Maybe some people watching want to check those out. But also, like, what were your, I guess, what were the most challenging parts about these builds?
Yeah, good question. The most recent one that I think was really our first foray into the Gatsby Shopify world was Jackson. So Jackson.com. It's a men's and women's now jewelry line that's really growing in popularity. When we started, they basically, from when we launched Gatsby till now, they've probably 10x'd in size just from users and revenue, and had a big jump in conversion rate from a lot of the things we did. So it's been really exciting because it's not only we built the site, but it also, we went through the growing pains of kind of scaling it up. And I can say that there's really been little hiccups in that scaling. Like now they're doing over 1 million users. I think it's probably close to 1.5 million users a month visiting the site. And we're really having very little issue with our infrastructure as it is with Gatsby. I would say that I really would think about, like when we first started building the Jackson site, there was something I kind of overlooked that I think would have been a lot better if I really took the time to do, which was some planning around really 3 pieces: data in, live versus static data, and then data out, and kind of mapping that. Because Tom quickly alluded to, like, you lose a lot of those Shopify apps. They're just not ready yet for headless. Some of them, they're moving that way. They're getting APIs. They're becoming more easily integrated. Also, before the meta field changes, like there wasn't a great way to store a lot of content in Shopify and access it easy through their APIs. So when I talk about like those 3 steps, like the first step is mapping out, okay, what are all the pieces of data that you need to build this site, and where are they going to be coming from? A lot of times Gatsby has really great plugins that can help you connect to different sources. You have a CMS that's going to help you with like page layouts. And then, for example, for us, we did a kind of a custom Google Sheet integration that allows their team to completely handle all of their different product pieces of information, like meta fields, in a way where we literally they have all their products listed. We store descriptions, we store extra information, we store size guide information, a lot of different things, and we reference that, and we're able to generate our site really easily. And that was kind of like an afterthought, was like, okay, where are some of these disparate pieces of data going to come from? So really thinking through that was really a struggle. And if I did it again, like a little bit more planning would have helped. Then the live versus static data, like really thinking about, okay, in some places you need to know in real time, is a product available at that point, or what is an upsell that is trending for that time. Sometimes we use APIs that use some AI or some sort of like algorithm that in real time changes upsells. We need to be able to get that on the client. So just keeping a distinction between the static and the dynamic data, and just mapping out where that's coming from. And then lastly, I say data out, but really it's integrations. Like there's a lot of modals and a lot of analytics and a lot of tracking and a lot of just performance stuff that kind of comes out of the box with Shopify. I think when you go to Gatsby and kind of outside of that ecosystem with the apps, you really need to just think about, okay, what's going to come with us? Where are we going to find struggles? What things don't maybe support this yet? And just thinking through that. So if I planned out again, I would plan those 3 things and kind of map it and make sure I have a plan, like, okay, we're cutting this, we're adding this, whatever. So I think that's the most difficult piece of the move to Gatsby.
Got it. So the flip side, and you alluded to this a little bit, like scale and stuff, and being able to bring data from multiple places. But what was your favorite part? What went really great about this project?
Yeah, man, I think it's the relationship between developers and the content and product teams of the company we work with, because now that it's headless, we have full flexibility of implementation of like components and UIs and UXs, and the designer can kind of get what they want now because there's so much more flexibility. And then the people who are managing content and managing product information, we can all kind of be in our independent silos. And if we have a good way of communicating, like there's not a lot of blockers, which is great. We have a product team that lives in the Shopify side. They live in that Google Sheet. They're able to edit product information. We have kind of the site content team that just lives in this case, Contentful. They're able to build new pages. They're able to build new collection pages, change banners, do all that stuff. And then we're able to work on new features, developing new user experiences, performance. And I think just them all being separated and not just like clumped together in this kind of not very efficient Shopify ecosystem, like you kind of separate them to things that they're actually good at. Gatsby's amazing developer experience. Google Sheets, the simplest way possible to manage any sort of product data. And then Contentful is excellent at managing content. And all those different teams can live in their own place. And it's just like a really seamless process for the company. And I think that's been kind of the biggest, most exciting part of it.
Totally. There's the phrase like raising a child takes a village. Well, launching an e-commerce site also takes a village. And so you want to give each team kind of what they need to be successful. And I think that's what's so exciting about Gatsby is being able to sort of say, okay, we're going to use multiple disparate technologies where each one is sort of purpose built for a different thing. And so it's cool to hear that works so well. So how about John? Any parallels between the projects you've worked on with Gatsby and Shopify, with what Trevor said?
Yeah, I think that's the main thing is trying to plan it out ahead of time as much as you can. But the brilliant thing is when you do hit something that becomes a bit of an issue or a problem, it's relatively fast to solve using something like that, where it's like a Google Sheet you can just introduce even if it's just a temporary measure. It gives you that flexibility to put something in short term. Like Tom mentioned before, we had something similar with the out of stock, where we initially thought email would be fine to send through to the client. But obviously, noticing quite a lot of plants that are out of stock that grew very fast, became unmanageable within the sort of the mailboxes and stuff like that. So, being able to quickly change something, especially with Gatsby functions as well, be able to implement something was really good. Can
we double click on sort of that waitlist functionality? Because I think like that's interesting that you identified this specific need for the site. Plants are out of stock. By the way, I'm in the process of moving, but I used to have like 60 houseplants in my apartment. So I'm a huge fan of houseplants. But okay, plant is out of stock. I want a Monstera, for example. I put my email in. Talk through like the technologies and how you use Gatsby functions to wire all that up. What's the workflow for your client?
Yeah, so obviously we've got the sort of out of stock box, which is on the first stage of the Gatsby site. They obviously fill that in, the customer who wants to know about when that's coming back in stock. And then, we pass those, well, basically just the SKU of the product, the customer's email. And then we've used I think it's actually called out of stock notifications, the Shopify plugin. So that's obviously like Trevor mentioned as one that has got an API and has become a bit more headless optimized, I guess. And we send those details through the API from the Gatsby site through Gatsby functions. And then, obviously that then goes into the Shopify ecosystem at that point. The notifications get stored in that platform that's purpose built. Amazing. Took a lot of pressure off us and a lot of headaches off the client. And then when they obviously update their stock and do the plant drops, that's connected back up to the out of stock notifications. So again, that takes care of the emails, lets the customer know it's back in stock. And then, there's a cycle again, the next out of stock product. So full circle on that. Great bit of kit as the Gatsby functions to let us do that. So
that's awesome. Are there any other Shopify apps that you found that work really great for headless or that you're looking to use sort of on your next project? And that's a question for everyone.
I don't think any come to mind, but it's usually obviously the bigger platforms that will have their own sort of API as well. That's the most important thing. If they've got an API, then we can push data in there, sort of get around obviously that Shopify sort of integration. But there's definitely more coming. What Shopify could do, and I think I did see something where they did filter it in some way. Whereas obviously you go to Shopify apps and there's filters for I think checkout and a couple of other things, but there's not really a way to filter by what could be used from a headless point of view. So I think if they added some sort of filtration like that would really help, because we did literally have to just Google around and click around and try and see what mentioned API. And, we looked at a number of these different apps to see, which did it first and a few did. And then we picked that one back in stock. That seemed the best way to go.
Yeah, I think one of the key ones that we're going to be looking at next is sort of tax compliance, which isn't quite as exciting, but that'd be one that we've got for an upcoming client for a Shopify build. So that's going to be an interesting challenge to do some tax stuff. I think obviously because we're in the UK, it's a little bit different. But yeah, that's probably the next fun one to challenge in the next build we do.
Yeah, one we use is Reach. If you've heard of Reach, that's the one we use, and it does internationalization as well. They have an API. That's been a pretty enjoyable experience to use, and they were really helpful. So I recommend it.
I'll take that one.
Another one that actually is kind of interesting because it's like an example of one that's in the middle of like moving into more headless is Rebuy, which I think is pretty popular. Rebuy is basically like it's the one I was talking about that does some purchase suggestions, like cross sells and upsells and stuff. And in the Shopify app world, it was, provided you a widget, and the widget pops up and it gives you products and you can upsell the user. But what they've done is they have like a data sources piece, and then they have a widget piece, and the data sources connect to the widgets. However, the data sources also have an API. So we've actually started doing our upsells and our cross sells with those data sources. We basically do not use half of their product, which is the widgets, and we just built our own custom UIs. We call the Rebuy API, and we're able to get, pass them a product ID, and they send us back, suggestions. So we started to integrate that over the last month. We even started doing some A/B testing on like which upsells are the best for certain products. And I think that has been really cool because we can use like an A/B testing tool with a upsell tool, bring them together, and create some really cool experimentation inside of our Gatsby site that would have been pretty difficult in the Shopify world because those two apps may not actually interact. But when you're working with APIs, it's completely flexible. I call this API, and then I run an A/B test here. They're decoupled, and they just handle what they need to handle. So there's some really cool stuff that I think are going to continue to come out as these apps move into more of that API paradigm. So
that's fantastic. Well, awesome. Thanks so much, everyone, for the time today. Hopefully, those of you that tuned in to watch. Oh my gosh, we have some questions in the chat. I totally missed those. Oh my gosh, we'll take another minute or two to answer those. So it looks like a sort of expensive to rebuild a Shopify storefront with Gatsby. I think that was the question. Correct me in the chat if I got that wrong. But do y'all have any tips for how to sort of minimize time or minimize costs for clients, or maybe like how to build a Gatsby powered storefront maybe for a client that's on a budget?
Yeah, I mean, first off, and I think probably most people doing headless Shopify are going to use the checkout anyway, but obviously use the checkout that they give you. To add to that, on a couple of the sites, we use their accounts as well. So at the moment, the sort of Shopify URL is on a sort of subdomain, and then we take the customer back from Gatsby to the Shopify site. When they want to do something in their account, so we do it that way instead of. But we've got a couple of projects coming up where we're going to build out a custom sort of account section. But if you want to sort of limit the hours, then that's a good way to do it. And then less Shopify, but probably on like a tooling front for the rest of your sort of Gatsby site. Start off with free tiers. Free tiers of CMSs. Most CMSs have a free tier, but just be careful, I think, of when those tiers sort of move up to the next level. Plan for the future, like we were saying before. So just make sure that if obviously your site does grow, then you're not going to get caught out by those sort of price and rates.
Expenses. Do you want to share maybe some of your favorite free tiers and that have like a sort of reasonable upgrade?
Yeah, no problem.
Contemple is one. Contemple is extremely, like, the free tier is so generous. It's actually unbelievable. Like multiple users, tons of content. So Contemple is definitely a good one for that free tier level.
Yeah, I think one of them we use is SendGrid as well, which is obviously the
SendGrid,
email, and it's just 100 a day is very generous. So that's a nice tool as well.
One other interesting thing that we did with our project is I think when it comes to on a budget, like sometimes what budget really means is like risk aversion, is like the client is like a little scared. So they don't want to put a ton of resources into something they're not sure is going to be successful. So what we've done is do an incremental upgrade. And what I mean by that is like build like one collection page in Gatsby, something real simple. And if they're an ad-based e-commerce business and they're willing to run a portion of their ads to that page, and then basically you link out to their normal product pages or PDP pages, we were able to do that, and we actually got a conversion boost from that one collection page being on Gatsby because the initial load of the first interaction was quick. And it actually, in the client's mind, it was like, oh man, yeah, it's worth putting in a little bit more into the budget because you proved to us already that this is actually providing some conversion lift. And then also they get to work in like the headless world and they can build the page out and you can give them a little taste. So that's one option too. That's a little bit more of like a creative strategy, I guess. It doesn't help with the entire site, but it gets you in the door a little bit more. So
that's awesome. We have another question in the chat. I think I know the answer, but I'll let y'all answer because I'm probably wrong. When going from the My Shopify checkout page going from the like Gatsby front end, I want to purchase this product, redirecting to the cart, the back to cart or shop button is gone from the Shopify checkout screen. Why is that? How would you recommend working around that? John looks like he wants to answer.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on that one.
Okay.
Sure, but that's how I think.
I would just go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I'm not 100% sure exactly. What we're talking about, but
I think you could open the new cart page in a new tab, maybe, and then you still have like the previous storefront, like on the previous tab. I don't know. That's not a full fix for that problem, but I think it's a state sort of refer issue.
I mean, it does obviously know about the Gatsby store because when you finish, checking out, you're redirected back to your Gatsby front end. So yeah, it obviously knows where you came from, type of thing, and you can set that up to redirect back and that kind of stuff. So yeah.
I do know, I think what they're talking about, like it does remove the ability to go back to the cart if it's not aware. So if you have Shopify Plus, you get the checkout.js. You could technically add in a link back custom, but obviously that requires the upgraded Shopify plan, which is definitely, when you go to headless, is pretty worth it because at that point you're making a decision to be a little bit more hands-on with the flow. So we did, and we're able to now like A/B test that and add functionality, which is really helpful.
That's awesome. Well, I don't think there's any more questions. So thanks everyone so much for taking the time. Trevor, John, Tom, Tyler, thank you for letting me rope you in to talk about how to stay on budget for your next Shopify project. And tune in next Wednesday for the next live stream, where I believe we'll be walking through more details on the updated Gatsby tutorial. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
See ya.